Good morning. Welcome to the Alpha Pension Group Retirement Recap for Tuesday, March 31st. We have a full agenda here, a quick agenda to talk about the market recap, but also how to save on administrative expenses as it relates to your match and some other topics. So I'm going to turn it over to Rob Milas, our Chief Investment Officer, to talk to you about what happened in the market yesterday and a quick preview of what he sees this morning.
Thanks, Rich. Yesterday was a great day in the market. We popped another 3.35% on the S&P 500, which represents the large caps, and then Russell 2000, which represents the small caps, jumped 2.33%. So now nearly half the peak to trough losses since February 19th have been erased. On the international equity side, we also finished modestly higher, and most of those indexes were in the green. On the commodity side, we saw crude oil tumble another 6% to $20 a barrel on weak global demand. So that is one of the first economic indices that we're seeing post the coronavirus, and we're seeing a dramatic impact in demand destruction. So positive thing in terms of probably lower gas prices, lower oil prices, but obviously that's a negative with regard to the international economic GDP growth picture. So yesterday we also had double B rated Yum Brand. So that's the high yield section of bonds, and they sold $600 million in 5-year notes. And you're saying to me, yeah, so well, this was the first high yield offering in the market since March 4th. So not only was Yum able to float a high yield issue, they were able to up their original size from 500 million to 600 million. And so what I see out of this is that this is another green shoot, another sign that the market is starting to return to normalcy. On the negative side, we also see that a huge buyer is now leaving the market. In recent weeks, an estimated $198 billion worth of S&P buybacks have been canceled. And so the 42 companies that are suspending these buybacks represented about 25% of the overall S&P buyback executions that took place in 2019. So again, we're kind of watching the tea leaves for signs that this market is changing, and we're starting to see some green shoots. But obviously, we're going to get a lot of negative economic news as we cycle through the first and second quarter of 2020. Back to you, Rich.
Thanks, Rob. Great information. So what I'd like to talk about is reducing administrative expenses. A lot of companies are looking to improve their cash flow and reduce their administrative expenses given the current economic climate. Over the past couple of years, many companies have adopted a safe harbor match, which is a very specific type of company match for your 401k. Unlike a discretionary match where you can make up the formula and start or stop the match throughout the year, the safe harbor match has 3 very specific formulas. You must adopt one of those formulas, and it's very difficult to stop that throughout the plan year once you start it. The reason why a company would adopt a safe harbor match is because it helps them with compliance testing. So at the end of every year, retirement plans must go through discrimination testing. And if you've had trouble with or were concerned about discrimination testing, a safe harbor match would be one way to circumvent those issues. So now that we are trying to reduce potentially plan expenses and increase company cash flow, how do you stop a safe harbor match? The first thing we need to do, and there's 4 total things that need to happen. The first is to look at the notice that was sent out to the employees last year. So with the safe harbor match, a notice needs to go out annually to tell the employees that you have a company contribution that's called a safe harbor. In that notice, it must say whether you have the ability to suspend that match or not. If you have a copy of that notice, take a look. If you need to get a copy or you don't know where to look, give us a call or your plan administrator and they can help you. That's the first of 4 steps that need to happen. The second step, if the notice says you can suspend it, is to amend the plan document to now be subject to that discrimination testing that you otherwise would have been able to avoid with the safe harbor match. The third thing is you must deliver the contribution, the company match, to the employees up until the point in which you suspend it. And lastly, you must amend the plan document. A new notice must go out to all employees telling them that the safe harbor match has been stopped for the plan year. Next, I'd like to turn it over to Mark Salamone, our lead consultant, to talk a little bit more about the stimulus program.
Thanks, Rich. So the stimulus check program has been finalized. Now we know the details of how Americans are going to get the checks that they should be receiving as a result of the CARES Act. Individuals who made up to $75,000 in 2019 will get a full rebate check of $1,200. Couples making less than $150,000 will get $2,400. And if you're a family of four, you'll be eligible for a maximum of $3,400. As people make more money, as determined by your 2019 taxes, that amount will be gradually scaled down. How that works is it will be reduced by $5 per every $100 of income that exceeds the limits. So as your income grows, you can start to make the calculations. And in fact, there's many calculators available online right now where people can figure out exactly how much they'll get for checks. Those checks should be coming out the week of April 6th. How Americans will receive those checks depends on how they've dealt with their taxes before. They'll either get a direct deposit, if that's the way they've received their tax rebates, or they'll get a check in the mail if their checking information already isn't set up with the IRS. So that program is on its way. And as you can see here by this graph, you can generally get an idea of how those checks will work. Moving on, we have, and all Americans have had quite a bit of phishing experience in the past, and any event like this, like coronavirus, is going to invite these cyber criminals to try to get participants' information and try to get people to click on links that will allow them to phish and get their personal information. So there's been a host of emails, just like this example here in the slide, that have gone out to people all over the world. And Norton, the security provider, has issued guidelines on how to avoid getting caught up in these phishing scams. Couple things to watch out for: spelling mistakes, general greetings like dear sir or madam, coming from organizations that sound official but you've never heard of. Another idea is to check the email address where it's coming from. Occasionally, it might look like the email address is legitimate and it's coming from a real organization, but when you check that link, it's actually coming from an email address that has no connection to that organization. Those are just a few of the things to watch out for, but this is becoming a common theme and people are starting to get more and more of these emails.
Mark, thanks so much. That's very helpful information. And thanks for joining the Retirement Recap here for Tuesday, March 31st. We'll see you tomorrow.